Senator Rennick. Senator McDonald.
Much, Acting Deputy President. Look, the Coalition will not support this bill, and it's not because of electric vehicles. It is about bad policy. This legislation, the government has failed to do a number of things. It's failed to establish clear criteria and metrics of success for the policy. It has failed to ensure the expenditure is temporary, proportionate and linked to tangible productivity gains. It has failed to quantify any benefit of the policy to electric vehicle uptake, to emissions reduction or to the budget bottom line. It has failed to tangibly address the biggest constraint on electric vehicle uptake, which is supply and infrastructure, and it has failed to consult with business and civil society on policy design. This is at odds with the new government promising sensible economic policy and fiscal repair prior to the election. In fact, the Treasurer said on the 28th of June 2022 that the government must make hard decisions necessary for responsible budget repair, making sure that spending is about building value, not buying votes. Every household has to make tough decisions about what they can and cannot afford, and it shouldn't be any different from their government. And finally, the Treasurer said because the budget should be about high-quality investments in the right priorities. And throughout the bill, this government has revealed this to be nothing more than pre-election posturing. This is about a Greens deal to deliver for inner city and not about practical measures that would allow people in Australia who are struggling under affordable cost of living issues, who are struggling to meet basic cost of living measures, and yet this government is introducing a bill that is going to bake in costs to the budget for years and years to come. This is very serious. It is incredibly serious because the Independent Parliamentary Budget Office has said this bill will cost billions of dollars. That's with a B, not an M, billions of dollars through the next decade. And yet the government cannot say what it will deliver for emissions reductions. They cannot say what it will deliver to the electric vehicle market. They cannot even say what criteria would make it a success. Now, demand for electric vehicles is already high. It's growing, and figures from the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industries show sales of pure battery electric vehicles last month represented the highest market share ever recorded. This bill, of course, is not just about pure electric vehicles. It also covers hybrid vehicles and variations. Now, my daughter, who lives in Brisbane and is able to commute around the city, has a hybrid vehicle. It's very cheap to run. It's terrific news. But she pays registration, and when she uses diesel or fuel, she pays a fuel tax. But this bill removes the FBT payable on vehicles up to $84,916. It provides a subsidy for people to receive on electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles, but not to people who do not have the luxury of a short commute. It does not provide the same advantage to people living in Northern Australia. This is a bill that is incredibly poorly conceived, poorly budgeted, and despite being referred to as tax reform by the Treasurer, the Senate inquiry suggests this bill is high cost, low impact, and has been designed with no consultation with industry, government or civil society. A number of experts have raised serious questions about equity, financial stability and price pressures on the electric vehicle market, and Treasury and the Department of Climate Change's evidence shows the impact of this policy on emissions reduction has not been quantified. Third-party evidence suggests it is negligible. I am perplexed because daily we hear the Treasurer talk about the difficult financial situation he's in. He talks about the $50 billion budget increase, the additional income thanks to commodity prices, which he has spent, and he is once again spending more money than he is collecting with this budget measure, because it provides a subsidy on FBT taxes to some people, but does not make that same subsidy available to every Australian. It does not take into account that they are subsidising vehicles, some of which will not pay fuel taxes. It does not take into account the impact on road maintenance and the collections that the Treasury relies on in order to fund the cost of roads maintenance, of safety concerns for Australians travelling in our big distances. Instead, it subsidises people into very short travel commute places. Now, this is crazy, crazy policy when we know that there is not enough infrastructure available yet to charge your vehicle. Imagine living in a high-rise building in Sydney, in Melbourne, where there is not enough shareable power points to allow these vehicles to be charged. We see images every day of extension leads, draped out windows and onto the street to support vehicles that may not be paying the electricity cost to their high-rise building body corporate. And yet the government is going to subsidise a vehicle, a market share of a vehicle that is growing in popularity. Be clear, this is not, the opposition is not opposed to this bill because we have any problems with electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles. It is because of poor infrastructure planning. It is because of poor budget planning. This is poor policy. And when Peter Shergold reviewed the government's ability to make good decisions, I am almost positive that this would be a shining example to him of poor government policy and decision-making. No consultation. No consultation. The number one thing that was identified by Mr Shergold. Poor budget outcomes. Clear criteria and measurements of success. Ensure the expenditure was temporary, proportionate and linked to tangible productivity gains. I could go back and repeat the list that I started with at the beginning of this contribution, but I shan't, because there is nothing in this bill and this policy making that gives me any confidence in this government's ability to manage the budget, to make good decisions, and certainly not to support people who are not as advantaged as those who have short commutes, who live within places that have hopefully some sort of infrastructure to charge their vehicles. It is a government that has no plan to replace diesel fuel and fuel taxes, and instead we're going to subsidise the FBT benefit for people who are buying electric vehicle and hybrid vehicles. When you hear the Institute of Public Accountants, not a group who is usually known for hyperbole or exotic statements, has stated that this policy will have a negligible impact on reducing Australia's carbon emissions from the transport sector. It said the government's assertion that this initiative makes the take-up of electric vehicles more affordable is misleading, and that private buyers and sole traders of electric vehicles cannot access these significant savings. It went on. The Institute of Public Accountants went on to say that there are other measures which would have a far greater short-term benefit to the environment than this measure. And finally, given the cost of electric vehicles, their limited supply and the lack of infrastructure, it seems the cost of this initiative is not warranted, particularly given the small number of vehicles that is anticipated to take advantage of this initiative over the 3-year exemption period. I mean, I have a range of quotes. I've quoted the Institute of Public Accountants, the tax group at the University of Melbourne Law School, Uniting Care, Treasury. Even Treasury is not able to articulate the long-term costs of this measure. Treasury agrees with the Parliamentary Budget Office that the cost of this measure will grow over time, stating in response to a question on notice that the costs of the measure are expected to increase over time as the measure matures, including into the medium term, and that the Treasury costing is sensitive to the uptake of electric vehicles, and this is something which could vary. I'm truly appalled to be a part of a part of this Senate, forming a government that is led by Labor, that is making such poor policy decisions that the only people who support it are the Greens. The only people who support it are people who want to encourage electric vehicle rollouts in the face of overwhelming evidence that this is not a necessary budget measure. It is not going to increase the uptake of electric vehicles, which is already a growing, mature market. It is not going to increase the infrastructure that's available to support these vehicles. And worse for me, as a representative of regional and northern Australia, it will not provide any advantage at all to the people who are doing it the toughest, the people who have the highest cost of electricity, the people who have the highest cost of insurance, the people who have the highest cost of food. Because this government, this Labor Albanese government, in partnership with the Greens, is delivering for the most entitled, the most supported group in Australia. But they're not supporting poor Australia. They're not supporting working Australia, and they're certainly not supporting regional Australia. It's shocking, and we should be ashamed. We should be ashamed to sit and pass this piece of legislation, because it is not by any measure good policy. Peter Shergold would tell us that. Blind Freddie on the street would tell us that this is not a measure that is suitable for the outcomes that this government says it's trying to achieve: budget restraint, emissions reduction, and supporting Australians who are struggling with the cost of living. Ashamed we should be, because we have the opportunity in this place, the opportunity that I'm taking right now, to point out shortcomings in policy development. We have this opportunity. We have the opportunity to get a decision right on this particular bill. I would encourage those opposite, those members of the government, to pull this bill, to say we're going to go back and think about it. We're going to have another look at how we can deliver on all of our stated objectives: budgetary measures, emission measures, consultation with industry, delivering for Australians who are under increasing cost of living pressures, the lack of infrastructure that's available to support these vehicles. For all these reasons, this poor public policy should be stopped immediately. Thank you.